aka Voltagectrlr, back again with another episode of Boombaptism Scrolls. I am rebooting the podcast. I had to take a little break. A lot of things going on in life right now. Had to put it on pause for a minute, but we are back in effect. And just to give you a refresher, Boombaptism Scrolls is a podcast dedicated to the producer, the beat maker, the DJ. You know, it's a for us, by us kind of thing. It's a place where we don't have to dumb it down for the general audience that listens to hip hop. This is for people that are like really heads, really can get technical into the music gear, and more importantly, into the foundation that all this is built on, which is hip hop culture. So to start off, you know, I want to, if we're going to talk about boom bap, you know, we have to start with DJ culture, because the DJ is the foundation, not only for beat making, but DJing is really the foundation for hip hop culture, period. You know, with, you know, Kool Herc DJing at the Park Jams in the Bronx, you know, Grandmaster Flash and people like that, cutting records back and forth. You know, even, you know, the name B-Boy is derived from breaks, you know, with the break of the record that they were scratching back and forth. Then the cats would come out and start, you know, dancing to it. Became B-Boys, aka break boys, you know. So the DJ was always front and center when it came to hip hop. You know, later there was that switch where the MC, you know, got too big for his britches and put the DJ in the back. But the back in the day, like, the MC was there to big up the DJ. You know, that was kind of the hierarchy at the time.
The official adventures of the Great Master.
So, I just wanted to say that. And, you know, when we get into different aspects of production, you know, we definitely have to start with the DJ. You know, the DJ taking the break of a record, you know, and extending that, you know, 2 turntables and a mixer, you know, to extend this instrumental part, you know, for people to dance to, later for people to rap to, all started, you know, with these breaks. So, you know, I like to build that foundation and speak about the importance of the DJ and that skill set. One is technically cutting records back and forth and doing like live looping, you know, is an important aspect of boom bap culture, you know, that we use the machine to do that now. But even more importantly is the skill set you have to have as a DJ. You know, like, one, you have to low-key be like a psychic and be able to read the energy of the room, you know, or of the party, to even know what the crowd is going to respond to. So that's, you know, one skill. The second is you have to have an extensive record collection and knowledge of those records, you know where the breaks are, you know when the part that you know people respond to, and to extend that to create a vibe. Because, you know, when you think about it from an esoteric lens, you know, this is a cyclical practice, you know, so we're in a cipher. You know, the b-boys, they're dancing, you know, in a circle, you know, to the cyclical music, you know, and the cyclical music and rhythm is like trance-inducing. This goes back to like, you know, tribal energy. You know, when you look at the movements of the b-boys, you know, they're moving in geometric shapes. So like, you know, you can liken them to like, it's very tribal. You know, they're opening portals. They're you know, stirring up energy and magnetism. You know, this is all part of hip hop culture. You know, and I think it's really important to speak of it from an esoteric perspective as well as, you know, technically and culturally. But yeah, the DJ, very, very important. And you know, having an extensive record collection was the end all be all. You know, like you had to have records that other people don't have, so you can kind of design your own sonic signature and sound with your DJ sets. You know, because if everybody's spinning the same records, you know, what makes you unique? You know, what made DJs unique back in that time was having, you know, their own special stash of records to the point where they would like black out, you know, the labels with a marker, so, you know, you couldn't stand over the shoulder and, you know, like, you know, jack their records or jack their sound. You know, so this was a big part of the culture. And you'll notice, you know, teleporting years later, because that was like, you know, Kool Herc and all that, that was like back in the 70s, you know, well before my time of actually being a practitioner. I didn't start until the 90s, you know, so, you know, we teleport, you know, to the late 80s, early 90s, you know, with people like Pete Rock, DJ Premier, Large Professor, Lord Finesse, Diamond D, you know, like all these dudes were DJs first, you know, so they have that same skill set, you know, that Kool Herc and them and Flash and them had, but then they had the added benefit of you know, also getting into the era of like having samplers and stuff like that, but they took their extensive record collection and knowledge of music into, you know, that phase of hip hop, you know, where it became that boom bap sound, you know, that was, you know, heavy drums, but also obscure loops, you know, and then with people like Premier and a few others, you know, starting to chop samples and you know, kind of jumble stuff up and rearrange and make this auditory puzzle out of the music. You know, that was like unheard of. That's something that came after having these machines, you know, where you have someone like Pete Rock that will take an SP1200, you know, and sample 3 different records that might be from 3 different genres. But he has that ear where he can find the common thread between these records and put this sonic puzzle together, you know, which is a brilliant practice. You know, that he wouldn't have that skill set if it wasn't for him having that DJ background. You know, so I like to big up, you know, these artists that have influenced me, but also push me to find my own sonic signature and approach things my own way. You know, even with picking the sampler that I use now, which is the Octatrack. You know, this is a sampler that's not associated with hip hop. You know, Premier, you know, was known for using, you know, the SP1200 MPC. Pete Rock's known for using the MPC. You know, Beatnuts were known for using MPCs and 950s. You know, so when you look at those samplers, like, you think of them. So I wanted to have my own. So that's why, you know, one of the many reasons why I picked Octatrack. But back to the things that, not the things, but the people that influenced me. I want to big up Large Professor because another person that I idolized when I was younger, you know, as a youth, was Marley Marl. You know, like, he was producing, you know, the Juice Crew, you know, and MC Shan, Roxanne Shante, you know, the Biz Markie. Like, these are like staples, you know, of my childhood and my formative years of falling in love with this music and this culture. You know, Marley was like, you know, top of the food chain, like how we hold Dre up now, and, you know, as far as West Coast producers, Marley was like their period. Like, for hip hop, he was like that one of one. He was like that Jedi status, you know. So that teleports me to Large Professor, because, you know, this is back to Queens. You know, Large Professor's from Queens, Marley Marl's from Queens. You know, so there's you know, Run DMC, LL Cool J, you know, just to name a few. These are all people in my formative years, even though I was all the way on the West Coast. You know, this was the music that I was listening to, and it felt like my music, you know, because like, you know, my mom and uncles and, you know, people in my family, in my neighborhood, you know, were listening to funk and like, you know, more like electro stuff, because like, you know, growing up in LA, there's a, we know as a gang influence, but a lot of the gangs here started out as like, you know, pop locking crews, you know, so like you would hear, you know, Roger and Zapp and that kind of stuff in my area, so that always felt like, you know, my uncle's music, my mom's music, my aunt's music, but hip hop felt like mine, you know, so like even though it wasn't from my city, you know, I was focused on what was going on in Queens, what was going on in Brooklyn, you know, in the Bronx, and all the hip hop I was listening to then, you know, and Queens was they laid down a pretty nice foundation and had an impact on hip hop culture, you know, so like, you know, Marley chopping up, you know, Impeach the President and you know, just the samples he would use, but he would also like play stuff on keyboards and stuff, so I mean, he really opened it up for a lot of people, and you know, I feel that Large Professor is like a branch off of that tree, you know, being that it's a you know, they're from the same borough. And Large Professor, you know, he's like the embodiment of hip hop, because he's got a dope voice, you know, he's an MC, first he's a DJ, you know, and he has an extensive record collection and knowledge of records, and then he also, you know, started producing and making beats. You know, so he's been a big influence from day one to present day. You know, like you go to his Instagram right now, and you know, he's known from the group main source, but you know, he's like Gangstar. It's a daily operation with Large Professor. You could go to his page on the daily to get inspired. You know, he's cutting records on the daily like they used to do, and a lot of times I still hear him dropping records. I'm like, what is that? Like he's still on it to this day. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling for a minute, because part of my Baptism Scrolls is bigging up, you know, the people that influence me and that have influenced this culture. So I want to take a moment and big up Large Professor and show y'all a couple of his videos from Instagram of him cutting back and forth. And we'll be back after that. All right, peace. Alright, what up y'all? We are back, and yeah, like I said, as you can see, Large Professor, one of one. He's incredible, and thank you for being an inspiration, and hopefully I can get Large Professor on the show. I'd like to interview him, but moving forward, I would like to speak about my other people that influence me is my peer group, you know, and there's a couple of beat makers that come to mind when I think of producers that you should know and that the world should know. But you know, outside of, I don't care how many followers you got, I don't care if you don't have, you know, credits on people's album or whatever. Like these two producers that I'm thinking of right now are some of the best out there right now. If you love boom bap and you love hip hop culture, like I'm telling you, these dudes are gonna make noise, and at some point the industry will recognize. I'll put myself in there as well, but yeah, it's all about, you know, the people that are actually doing this on a daily basis. Like, you know, I was picking a Large Professor for being on it on the daily, you know, playing records. Yeah, these two artists that I'm thinking about are absolutely, it's another daily operation. Like they are banging out beats on the daily, and they're dope. You know, it's like I don't hear any throwaway beats, like just classic after classic after classic, straight up head nod shit. And the first one that comes to mind is my bro Wino Willy, representing New Orleans, and Damon Flores. These two like are on it, and that shit bangs. Like I'm gonna warn you, like get a neck brace and prepare, because like these two brothers are incredible. And I got Wino Willy confirmed for a live interview when I start doing the live stream again, which is going to be sooner than later. I'm going to set up a date ASAP. But yeah, he's confirmed for an interview. And I spoke to Damon Flores a couple of months ago, and he's down for an interview as well. So these are going to be the first two that, you know, I'm going to interview in real time. You know, we'll have a chat going, so if y'all want to ask questions or whatever, you know, we'll do that. But yeah, so we're going to stop and check out a beat from both of these cats, and then I'll be back and maybe demonstrate a little bit of you know, chopping a sample, and I'll make a beat, and then we'll be out. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Check out Wino Willy, check out Damon Flores.
Attention! Due to high levels of knock, this can cause distress in the uninitiated. Bump responsibly.
I was talking about, you know, before I get into this beat, you know, I was talking about my origin, you know, as, you know, before I was a beat maker, I was a DJ, you know, complete with like going to DJ battles, you know, cutting and scratching, beat juggling, the whole nine. And, you know, sometimes it's best. I'm from a Tribe Called Show and Prove, you know, I could talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but the best thing for me to do is to show y'all some footage. So I dug up some old footage from when I was battling with my DJ crew. We used to go to Scribble Jam every year, and my crew, Music Fiends and 1200 Hobos. Yeah, so I wanted to show you 2 videos from my practice session at my homie DJ Rag's house. And yeah, so you can see I was really about that life, and show you, you know, how I approach beat juggling and making different patterns out of 2 different records. And after that, we'll get back to some beat making. You know, I'll make a beat live, and then we'll wrap this up. And stay tuned for my Baptism Scrolls live. You know, we'll be doing all this live, interviewing live and live beats, and also be featuring beat sets from the guests that are on the show. So thanks for joining me. I'm Shiro Fujioka, aka Voltagectrlr. You are watching my Baptism Scrolls on Voltagectrlr TV. Peace and love.
Oh yeah, baby. Yeah. Oh yeah.
What up, y'all? So we are back to the part of the show where I make a beat live. It's gonna make a pretty simple boom bap beat, keeping it hella simple. 2 elements. I got drums and I got the sample. So I'm gonna let y'all hear that.
Voltage control. Voltage control. This is Los Angeles.
So those are our drums, and then we have our sample. And that'll be our A section, and then I'll come up with a second pattern for the B section. So that's our A section. So we will rock some more drums, and we'll find some other samples, and we're gonna right about now, I'm just going to put it all together. Thanks for joining me on my Baptism Scrolls, and stay tuned for more.
Voltage control.
Spark that.